Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Reaction Time. My name's Jacqueline and I'm joined by my co-host Ben Visser. We're not in the studio today, as you can see. Unfortunately, the internet at the studio has been crap all day. We were having issues getting C-Dub and Bloom, and then we had some issues with some Iowa Everywhere podcasts. So Ben and I decided to play it safe and just record from home to make sure to give the best quality podcast we can. Ben, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's fun to return to our roots a little bit, where we get to record from home, sitting on our couches, and just talking wrestling. So it's fun.
It I think back to our very first episode when I was so worried about like the sound. So I did it in my closet. But this was
I remember that.
but this was before we were on camera. So
Yep.
nobody had any idea, or that it took me probably 45 minutes to hit record. So
It took a while.
we've come a long way. I didn't even laugh this time before I hit
You,
record.
you didn't. It's impressive. Growth is what we call
Growth,
that.
growth for us. But we are officially in the thick of it, right? Second, like I say every pod, I don't know what to call it, but we're in the second half of the season. Conference action is hitting the schedule. A lot of fun wrestling to happen. Recently, Iowa State defeated Arizona State and Cal Baptist. They got to escape the cold for a little bit there. I saw Dresser had on a long sleeve in California. So I'm curious what the weather was like, but knowing them, I'm not surprised they had long sleeves on. So, anyways, Ben, give your initial takeaways from Iowa State's trip out west.
Yeah. My initial takeaways are I feel like wrestlers just live in long sleeves. So I feel like they could be in Jamaica and they'd be wearing a sweatshirt. And it's just like, all right, well, that's what wrestlers do.
Yeah.
They like to make their lives miserable. But as far as this weekend of wrestling, I'm going to talk a lot more about Arizona State than I'm about Cal Baptist.
Yep.
Because we could watch Arizona State and Cal Baptist was on, I think, Flow, and I wasn't going to pay for
Yeah.
that. So no offense to Cal Baptist, but they weren't worth it. So Arizona State, I liked what I saw pretty much top to bottom. There are obviously a couple of standout matches that I really like to see. And the first of those being Ja'Cory Teamer, number 4 from Arizona State versus Iowa State's Cody Chittum. Obviously, as we've said a number of times, Cody Chittum, number 1 ranked pound for pound recruit in the nation. He flipped his commitment from Iowa to Iowa State after the Ferrari news broke that the Hawkeyes are going to start recruiting them. Obviously, the Ferraris might be enrolled at Iowa. That part might be true, but they are currently not on the wrestling team. So I put this tweet out there the other day. I'm like, I wonder what the brands would do now if they knew now what they knew then. As far as would they rather keep Chittum or would they try to swing for their fences with 3 Ferrari brothers? So that's just a fun little thought I had. Like, oh yeah, I'm glad we got Chittum. But anyway, so the Ja'Cory Teamer versus Cody Chittum match. Chittum has faced a number of top-ranked wrestlers this year, most notably number 2 Jared Franick from Iowa, and he was literally a second away from winning that match. Truly, if it had been a second more, he'd been awarded a takedown and he would have beat Jared Franick. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. He wrestled a number of other top-ranked guys at Cliff Keen and wasn't able to get over the hump against those guys. But against Ja'Cory Teamer, number 4 in the nation, Cody Chittum did win pretty decisively, which was great to see. He won that match 9-5, and that was after giving up the first takedown. And like when he gave up that first takedown, I was like, all right, that looks a lot like Ja'Cory Teamer. Like this is an explosive athlete, and he's going to come out swinging these first couple minutes of the first period just because he is a better athlete than 95 to 99% of the guys he wrestles. But then Chittum got to his game plan. He hung on his head. He grinded him down. He wore on him. And what I love to see from Chittum is he was really hard on top. Like he was very, very good on top. And we'd seen that at times with Chittum, but I was wondering how it was going to translate to number 4 guy in the nation. Translated really well. He was really tough on top. So that was great to see. And then the takedown, the most notable takedown that he had, Chittum, was his little spinning thing where it looked like his knee probably exploded, but somehow didn't. And that was, I mean, it looked very painful, but it was awesome to see, and it apparently wasn't painful. We asked Cody about that today during interviews, today being Wednesday. I was going to say Tuesday, but then I remembered it's Wednesday.
Yep, it's Wednesday.
And he's like, yeah, coaches don't love that from me when I do that. They'd like to see me sprawl, but it's something that I've been doing for the last 8 years. So maybe at some point I'll learn, but so far nothing bad has happened. So he just keeps doing it. It keeps working for him. His knee is apparently not built like the rest of ours, because if I did that, I would not have a knee anymore. It would every tendon and everything in there would just be busted, snapped, torn into, all of it. So shout out to Cody Chittum and his bendy knee of magic. So I love that match. Jackie, what were your thoughts on that match?
Yeah, I think, like you said, that little spin twist thing he did was impressive. I always am amazed at how he, as a wrestler, can twist and turn his body, because I think obviously athletes in general are very flexible just because they are consistently working out, and Cody Chittum can do things that not just anybody can do and not experience pain. I thought it was funny when Dresser said that it makes his heart stop a little when he does it.
Yep.
But it also, the way he described how it just kind of happens, makes me think of Jason Kreiser. How he just has like no thoughts, they're just kind of going with what feels right in the moment. But really, in terms of his win, I think it was really impressive. Dresser today, I guess you guys will be listening to this on Thursday. On Wednesday, Coach said that, he is a freshman, which I think we forget to really pinpoint sometimes when we talk about him. Like he's a freshman. This is his first time being a D1 athlete. And so some of the issues maybe he had that held him back in winning some of those matches at Cliff Keen or in other duels, say like Jared Franick, I think I'm hopeful and feeling positive that his training so far is going to make him learn how to not make those same mistakes and maybe earn some of those takedowns. He described today how he knows he's going to give up a few takedowns sometimes. And I think having him being comfortable with that makes me feel good about his confidence in himself, and knowing that he can turn it around. And I think in reality, being able to get a win like this gives him actual confidence with results. Whereas like before, you look at the Jared Franick match, right? And he gave up the takedown, I said touchdown, the takedown, and it cost him the match, right? Well, now he's able to see, how can I not make that same mistake again? So I'm excited to see what he does as he gets into tougher competition. He's obviously been someone we've talked a lot about in terms of just being like a very dominant add to the roster. And I'm excited to see him getting those results now and seeing how he can step up for the team. And getting this type of win is very notable. Like this is a big deal. I was not 100% sure that he would, not because I doubted his talent, but because his opponent's just that good. So it was really cool to see him get it. And like we had talked about earlier, I was glad Pac-12 Now worked out for all of us who caught it to watch the duel for free, because I didn't think we were going to. So big win for him. I think it's definitely like what was it? God, what do we call those wins? A career
feather in the
defining.
cap.
Yeah, I think it's what he needed. And it especially sets him up for, I think, success headed into the end of the season, right? Into Big 12 duels where you can't really afford to make mistakes, like giving up that first takedown. So that's kind of the thoughts I had with that one. So, and then the other one we talked a lot about, Younger Bastida. He went up against Colton Schultz. We hyped him up a lot. Colton Schultz, great guy. He definitely looked like he had some mat rust there. But I think we saw some pretty positive things from Younger, despite him being obviously way more ready for this matchup. Why don't you give us, being the number one Younger Bastida fan in the state of Iowa, give us what did you take away from Younger's match?
Yeah, I loved Younger's match for a couple different reasons. Obviously, Colton Schultz is a world-class wrestler. Yes, he had mat rust when it comes to folk style stuff. just because he'd been wrestling Greco-Roman for so long. But there's a couple notable things that I'd like to point out about that match. One, so we say heavyweight because generally guys don't have to cut to make weight at heavyweight. Like you just get to weigh whatever you want to weigh. But Colton Schultz had to cut weight to make weight. Technically, the cap is 285, and he weighed in at 284.6. So he had to cut weight to make weight, which is an interesting thought for heavyweights. So like this is a big guy that Younger's wrestling, and it's not easy to push and pull that guy around the mat, especially because he does have that Greco-Roman background. So and he saw it a couple times during the match where one time in particular, I remember Colton did get, I think it was an over-under situation, and Younger essentially threw that thing in reverse and tried to sprint out of the situation backwards. Just because that's not a place where you want to be with Colton. Just because he is bigger than you, he is probably stronger than you, and he's obviously very comfortable upper body with his Greco background. So I like Younger's wisdom in getting out of that, because I feel like maybe freshman Younger tries to do something dumb in that situation. It's like, hey, I'm a great athlete. I can try something here, and tries to throw Colton Schultz, which I was very happy to see that didn't happen. The other thing that I love seeing was, even though there was mat rust from Colton Schultz, it showed itself in the third period. He was exhausted in the third period. I'm not going to say he wasn't. He absolutely was. But the thing I love to see from Younger was he got an early takedown. And that was when Colton Schultz was fresh, and that's when you'd expect him to be defending shots well. But Younger got that low single, was able to break Colton Schultz down, cut the corner, and earn himself a takedown. So I love seeing that, just because it proves to me and to Younger, even though Younger's a confident human being as it is, that he can take these big guys down. He's not going to get stuck underneath like he did the first takedown of the season against that Cleveland State guy. Younger has still only been taken down once this season, and it was on the very first shot attempt of the season where he took a bad shot, got stuck underneath a heavyweight, and got taken down. He obviously learned a very valuable lesson from that shot and has not done it since, because that's what I was worried about against Colton Schultz is, all right, he shoots a shot and he gets stunk underneath of him, which would have been very easy to have happen. So happy to see that. I was also happy to see Younger wrestle a really smart match, because again, even last year, Younger would try to extend matches he didn't need to extend in terms of score margin. I'm not sure you ever was going to get a major decision against Colton Schultz. So it's in the third period. You don't need to keep shooting, especially at heavyweight, especially against a guy like Colton Schultz, because that's how you let a guy like him back in the match. You take a bad shot and suddenly you're taken down and you can't get back up. So I did like to see, as much as I'd love to see Younger shoot and score and do all of the fun things that Younger can do, I did like to see him wrestle a really, really smart match. The third, maybe fourth, fifth thing, I don't know what thing I'm on right now. The next thing I would like to see from Younger was the fact when the third period started and he had choice, he chose bottom right away and got up essentially without problem. That shows so much growth from Younger from when he first stepped on campus to now, that he will choose bottom against probably most guys. I think Wyatt Hendrickson notwithstanding. And he's able to get up pretty much without problem, especially against a guy who weighs 285 pounds. And by the time that match started, I bet Colton Schultz weighed more than that. That's just what he weighed in at. I bet Colton Schultz probably weighed 290, 295 during the match. So, yeah, really all around phenomenal performance from Younger. Obviously wasn't a flashy one, wasn't a high scoring one, but it might be either this one or the Michigan win, the Mason Paris win, are up there for top two matches I've seen him wrestle this year.
Well, in his takedown tracker, for those who are tracking with us, is 60-1.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I've said this explicitly on the podcast. I know I've said it to you in text. I wanted to see Younger on bottom, and I wanted to see how he did. And I've almost gone as far as to say I want to see him struggle his way out of it, just because he's obviously confident, he's dominant, he's strong. We've heard it from Ben Durbin. We've heard it from Younger himself. Like he knows he's good. And like you said, this was a very smart match. He won the match 4-3. It's not your typical Younger win, or at least what we've been used to so far. So I think it's good to see him in that situation. And I'm sure in this scenario, at least from what we could see on TV, it didn't seem like he was in a panic or nervous. It seemed like he looked very comfortable. But I want him to be pressured in those ways, because once you're in Kansas City, I almost said Tulsa again. Once you're in Kansas City and you're on the mat and you're going through the gruesome days at the tournament, like, there's no break. You're going up against these big, heavy, tough heavyweights. So I just want to see him go through that early and right away, so that when the time comes, when it really matters, he's 100% comfortable. He knows what to expect. He knows how to get himself out of those. And I think the way he wrestled this Colton Schultz match shows that he has come a long way in areas that maybe we don't put under a microscope the way we do his takedowns or his ability to pick someone up. So yeah, no, it was a very good match. Overall, I was very pleased. It seemed like, from what we heard from Andy, the SID, there was a great crowd. He said that he felt, of the, what was it, like 2,000 people that were in attendance, 40% of them were Iowa State fans, which is awesome. I had some people message me on Twitter and tell me that this was their first time going to a duel, and some people got the opportunity to just attend, which is awesome. I think that's great to hear about, excuse me, people attending these duels out of state, just because we're in such a silo in the state of Iowa with wrestling, that it's awesome to hear that 40% of a crowd was there for Iowa State wrestling. So I think that's awesome. Um, any other thoughts you had with the Arizona State duel?
The only other, I mean, obviously you could highlight a few guys, but MJ Gaitan at 174 beat Kyle Valencia 8-4. I didn't know that there was another Valencia brother, but apparently there is, Kyle. And that was a back and forth match. It was a high flying match too. Like, there was a lot of things going on in that match. A lot of them didn't lead to points, but a lot of rolling around in that match. And to see MJ Gaitan come out with an 8-4 win against Kyle Valencia was great to see. Julian Broderson getting a nice win was good. Will Feldkamp getting a ranked win was good.
Yep.
I do think we should touch on Evan Frost. He didn't wrestle this weekend.
Yep.
Iowa State's normal 133 pounder, ranked, I think, 8th in the country. And asked Dresser about that today, which is Wednesday. And he said that Evan Frost had too good of a time over the Christmas break, ate a little bit too much, drank a little bit too much Gatorade, and was a little bit heavy. So they had Ethan Perriman go at 133. I would expect to see Evan Frost back for this upcoming weekend. But yeah, so that's why Evan Frost didn't wrestle.
Yeah, which, I mean, he's a freshman. My assumption is you go home for the holiday with your twin brother and you have to make weight, and he probably doesn't have to make weight. So then you kind of slip up a little. That's my assumption. He's a freshman. He'll learn, just with his toughness. And from what we've seen from him so far, I wouldn't be surprised if this is something he learns from and doesn't repeat, or at least you hope so. But that's all right. I think guys, stepped up this weekend. Ethan Perriman, like you said, he stepped up, and Zach Redding stepped in for Casey Swiderski. I know, was it the Arizona State duel that people were pretty upset about, right? Yes, with Zach Redding.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. I mean, Zach Redding is not a 149 pounder.
He wrestled at 133 last year.
So I think that one is he's just not, sometimes he's going to be not physically matched up there. So, but other than that, yeah, I thought it was good to see Kyson Terrakina get out there and get a 12-6 win. Like you said, Julian Broderson. Yeah, I thought it was a good duel. So, and Cal Baptist, like you said earlier, Iowa State did what they were supposed to, which was go in, be dominant, get bonus points where you're supposed to, and close it out. And that's what they did. The only loss that Iowa State had was Ethan Perriman unfortunately lost 4-0 at 133, but I mean, that one's kind of it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think for me, the two biggest things from this match are Cody Chittum once again. He got a tech fall against Chaz Hallmark and scored 31 points
in 7
himself
minutes.
in 7 minutes. This wasn't a combined 31 points. Like the match total was 31 points. No, Cody Chittum scored 31 points by himself in that match. So that was incredible. Other things, Anthony Etchemendia is probably someone we should highlight. He had 2 tech falls this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, that guy is on a tear. Again, similar
really
to
is.
Cody Chittum, Anthony was a different referee away from beating number 1 Real Woods against Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who no one's going to want to see in March if he's on their side of the bracket, because he can get to his offense, and his offense is scary. Like if you watch that Arizona State dual meet, he was tossing that guy on his head a few times. Like, oh boy, I don't know if this other kid's going to make it out. No, Anthony, he's a different type of dude, similar to Younger, really. I mean, they're both Cubans, and that Cuban training center down there, man, they got him wrestling right.
I was gonna say whatever they're doing with him down there. Yeah, no, like you said, he's been super, super impressive. And I think just his overall demeanor as like a person, he just kind of like skates by, I think people have kind of not underestimated him, but he's kind of flown under the radar almost. But like, no, he's like you said, kind of a menace.
He is a menace.
So definitely one that I think makes the idea of what guys can do in March exciting. And I think he'll be one of those that'll be really exciting. So but Iowa State's finally coming back to Hilton. Dresser said, I don't know how he described it, but it really does feel like it's been absolutely forever since they've been at Hilton.
Does.
So Friday night they take on Utah Valley, and then Sunday they'll take on Pitt. Pitt right now, what are they ranked? I had it in front of me and now it's gone. Utah Valley should be, in my opinion, a good, on paper, Iowa State will be fine. Yep. One matchup, Julian Broderson will have a tough matchup. So that's really what we're looking forward to there. And then Pitt is they're facing them again. They originally faced off against each other at collegiate duels. Iowa State won. So we'll have a rematch of that. We can start with Utah Valley, just kind of talk about Julian Broderson, who we actually got to talk to at availability. And Dresser, when asked about Julian Broderson and really how he's been doing this season and how he's grown, talked about how he doesn't set his goals high enough. I know Julian's been one of those guys where one day we'll feel really, really good about him. He'll do something really explosive. If found in the right position, Julian will pin guys. And then in others, we'll just kind of watch him wrestle really safe, won't get any points. It'll just be really low pace. And, there's frustrations there, right? Because it's like Julian doesn't give us an in-between. We kind of get the extreme. We get the explosive pin, or we get the just kind of hanging on.
Yep, so, the 3-2 loss.
Yeah. So I think Friday could really be like a defining moment, right? It's a moment that I think would be really hopeful for everyone, from fans, for the coaches probably. And I know for us who've been covering Julian for years, I think it would be probably really big for his confidence too, to be able to get a ranked win, a big win that he's obviously not really favored in. I would really like to see that from him. I think it would really change the tune of the rest of the season for him if he's able to get this type of win. And of course, if he doesn't and he goes on, I'm not saying he won't win the rest of the season, but I think it's one of those wins that could really set a tone for him that he's really kind of been missing there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I agree. His opponent is Evan Bach from Utah Valley, who's currently ranked number 22. And Evan Bach or Bachman, I think. Evan Bachman. Yep. He beat Younger Bastida last year. only once. They wrestled, I think, 3 or 4 times, and they only beat him once. But he did beat Younger last year. Again, that was when Younger kind of had one leg and was cutting a bunch of weight. But he did win. So Evan Bachman is very good. And like Jackie said, Julian's a guy who's going to dominate guys he's better than. But for some reason, and I think this is what Dresser's getting at when he says that Julian doesn't set high enough goals, against guys he's quote unquote ranked lower than, or guys that are quote unquote better than him, he wrestles super safe, like Jackie said. Like he's scared of letting something bad happen. So he just wrestles very confined. And why not throw it out there? If you're going to lose, go for it. Like, try something. So I think it'd be fun to see Julian go out there against Bachman and throw it all out there, because that's a dual meet Iowa State's going to dominate. Like, it will not be close. Besides that Julian Broderson match, and I guess it kind of depends if Evan Frost has his weight back under control. But besides those two things, Iowa State's going to dominate that match. And if Evan Frost wrestles, he'll dominate his match, and Julian's probably the only toss-up. So if that's the case, and you're ranked lower than Evan Bachman, which he is, throw it all out there. Because the worst thing that happens is you get pinned. Oh, well, it's not going to matter. I mean, Iowa State's going to win anyway. So, and then if you do win, guess what? Now you have a leg up in seeding come Big 12 championships. Now you have a really good argument for having Julian Broderson seated higher than Evan Bachman and have an easier path to NCAA championship qualification. So I'd love to see Julian throw it all out there and say, why not? And put on a show a little bit.
Yeah, I think as you were talking, it kind of made me think of, Kyvan Gadsden's thoughts when he went into his last season, right? You got to let it fly. You got to wrestle free, because at the end of the day, what matters, right? Like, this is it. So why not just really, truly just close it all out? Do the crazy things. And I know sometimes you got to wrestle smart to make sure you don't get pinned or you don't end up in a crappy situation. But yeah, like you said, you have nothing to lose when on paper you're already being predicted to lose. So no, it'd be a good one. Today like I said, we spoke with, we got to speak to Julian today. He had his daughter with him, which I think has been a big mental thing for him, right? You become a dad and suddenly, your priorities change, the way you view life changes. From what I hear, I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to pretend to understand. But I feel like whenever you talk to people who are parents, your mentality changes. And he talked a lot about how, you get to be selfish with your wrestling and you get to be a selfish wrestler, because at the end of the day, yes, it's a team sport, but there's also this huge individual component to it. And I asked him what he wanted Iowa State fans to know about him, and he said he just wants people to know he was selfless. So I think it's been interesting to see how he's evolved just as a person, as a wrestler. And I hope that even if he doesn't win, that we see him wrestle a different way.
Yeah. I'm perfectly fine if he loses and he throws it all out there. I'm happy with that. But if he loses 4-2, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, for sure. No, I understand. And I think fans' frustration isn't from a angry place of you know what, Ben, this is so funny. And I'll give context. When we were getting ready to record, I told Ben, I have this really in thought process of what I want to talk about when it comes to Julian Broderson. And I completely forgot it. I couldn't remember it. And it just came to me right now as we're recording. And it wasn't as necessarily as insightful as I thought. But what I was thinking was, with fans feeling frustrated because they've been very vocal about it. And I know Julian's very active on Twitter, so I know he's probably seen it, right? The thing with his losses and the frustration that comes with it, it's a good thing that people are upset. Like, if he was someone who just went out there and lost and people are just kind of like, okay, Julian Broderson lost. Like, that's a problem. That means people have no faith that you can win these matches. That means people aren't even thinking about whether you're going to be a win or a loss when they look at the lineup for the duel and think, okay, what's going to go down today? What's my prediction? So that's what I was thinking of. I was like, it's a good thing that people are frustrated, and it's a good thing we're having these conversations of wanting Julian to be better. And with Dresser's conversation today about how he's like, he needs to set his goals higher. I mean, that tells me that coach also thinks that Julian's bar needs to be higher for himself, because he can do it. He just needs to maybe cut out some of those mental blocks. Gosh, that is so funny. That's exactly what I was thinking of earlier. That is my rant on Julian Broderson today.
That's a good rant. I'm glad you thought of it.
Yeah, it came to me right in the middle of recording. That's so funny. But also a fun nugget that'll be relevant, I guess. His daughter was with him today. She was with him at one of the post duel. Gosh, this is because I worked basketball last night. It's so hard to transition sometimes. Post duel press conference. Olive got to be at one of those, and then Olive got to be at her first media availability today. So when you guys go and watch media availability video, just know that Olive Broderson is indeed present for interviews. So fun little time there. But all eyes are on Sunday. They're going to go up
All
against
eyes
Pitt.
are on Sunday.
They're going up against Pitt. Like I said, they wrestled already back in the collegiate duels. Iowa State won 21-14. When we revisit the score from that match, my first thoughts is, from the people that lost in this match, it was Zach Redding at 149. So ironic that he stepped in at 149 then, and will most likely be stepping in this time too. Coach said Casey Swiderski's more of a no for this weekend. And then you have MJ Gaitan lost at 174, Will Feldkamp at 184, and then someone else wrestled other than Julian at 197, Rowan Udell. Is that how you say his last name? Udell?
I think so.
Okay.
That's how I'd say it.
Right off the bat, I want to see Will Feldkamp win.
Yep.
Like, you've been on a roll here. You've had some good wins. You're ranked higher than, I'm assuming he will wrestle against Reese Heller. I don't know. What did I say he was ranked? He's ranked 23rd now.
No,
So,
Reese Heller's ranked 9 right now.
Who am I thinking of?
No. Will Feldkamp is ranked 9. Reese Heller is ranked 12, I believe.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of someone else. Well, regardless, my opinion stands.
Yeah,
I would like to see Will Feldkamp get a win this time. And honestly, I would like to see what MJ Gaitan can improve. He only lost 5-4.
Yeah.
So
no, I'd like to see MJ turn that one around. I'd like to see Will Feldkamp turn it around. And I mean, Julian Broderson's going to have another ranked guy. He's going to have Max Stout from Pitt. And Max Stout is not a world beater. Again, why not throw it out there and see what you can do against a ranked guy? So those are a couple matches that I'd like to see turned around from Iowa State. Other matches that I'm looking forward to, again, this assumes Evan Frost wrestles and has his weight back under control. Earlier this season, he had Vinny, oh boy, can't pronounce his last name.
I was ready for you.
Santinello, I think is how you'd pronounce it. And he won that match 9-6 in sudden victory. I like to see Evan Frost widen that gap. I'd like to see it not be in sudden victory. I'd like to see it somewhere in the 12-6 range. Anthony Echemendia, at the time, Cole Matthews was ranked number 15, and Anthony Echemendia was ranked number 14. And Anthony beat him by major decision 12-3. I'd like to see him do that same thing again. Just reaffirm to the nation that you're that dude. I'd like to see that. Cody Chittum did great. David Carr did great. And then again, Younger Bastida, I keep talking about him, but he keeps wrestling highly ranked guys. He's got number 9, Dayton Pitzer from Pitt. He beat him earlier this year, 6-3. Pitzer is one of those guys that Dresser said today is really good on top. So if Younger does choose down, how quickly is he able to get up? And how many times can you take him down? So that's another match where, once again, you're looking forward to Younger Bastida. Now, this is one where I'm going to assume Iowa State wins this dual meet. They beat him earlier. I don't think Pitt has enough horses to swap to get enough wins to, challenge Iowa State here. But I mean, they could. I think a lot of upsets would have to happen, but they could challenge Iowa State. But this is one where I think Iowa State wins. Probably pretty similar to last time, somewhere in that 21-14 range. But it's going to be a good test as Iowa State gets ready for an Oklahoma State weekend the next weekend, where Oklahoma State is a lot better than I expected them to be.
Yeah, just kind of coming out of nowhere, which I mean is exciting. For me, Oklahoma State's one of those programs where, there's so much history there. John Smith is John Smith. I've always talked about how much I love him. Like, I don't want them to be a bad team. I want competitiveness. I want Iowa State to have a challenge, and I want Iowa State to come out the winner. And then, and for us to be able to see how they come out the winner, right? So I don't think Iowa State's going to get the team we thought they were going to next week. And I think being able to wrestle Pitt on Sunday, and I think there's something interesting in being able to wrestle a team twice, especially in this capacity where you're going like duel against duel. I didn't know how to word that. You know what I mean? Like, I think Iowa State will win, just like you said. I echo everything you just said. I don't have to repeat it, but I think there's something special in going up against each other again, top to bottom. So it'll be an interesting test, and I think it'll be a good test for these guys before they prepare to head down to Oklahoma and face off against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So, which we'll have a pod where all we'll do is talk about those two programs. So we don't have to get too far ahead, but I guess we can talk about it. Our good pal Seth Duckworth, if you guys are not familiar with him, he does great work covering the Oklahoma schools. He has agreed to come on the pod with us to talk all things Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. I honestly I wouldn't trust any other person more when it comes to the two programs and really understanding how the two are doing. I'm very curious to talk about Oklahoma. We talked about them in the off season, and the few times we podcasted really about how, becoming Big 12 affiliates, what's that fallout look like for them from, bigger sports making the decision to move. And then their head coach left, which caused a lot of issues with guys leaving left and right. So I think it'll be interesting next week. It'll be an interesting matchup for Iowa State.
For sure.
But I guess I was going to ask you your final thoughts, but I guess before we jump into that, we should talk about Iowa State's eventful, heroic moment of helping that random guy at their hotel find their kid. Iowa State put out a story this morning about how while they were out west, traveling for the duels, they were all enjoying some pizza. I love the dresser decided to buy the team pizza. They were just having some pizza together. I think it sounded like the lobby, correct?
Yep, lobby of the hotel.
Yep, and they were just hanging out together, eating some pizza when suddenly there was a frantic dad kind of walking around, and Dresser wasn't 100% sure why he was so frantic, so he just kind of said like, "Hey, would you like to join us for some pizza?" And it turned out that this poor guy, how old was the kid? Like
1-year-old.
1-year-old had run off, and they couldn't find him. And so, Dresser didn't hesitate. He called the team out and said, "Let's go." And they all went hunting for 20 minutes to find the kid. And lo and behold, Julian Broderson, the dad of the team, found the poor little 1-year-old. He was in the parking garage beneath the hotel, which is just insane to me that he found a way down there.
Yeah. Apparently he got on an elevator and pressed the button, probably the only button the kid could reach,
yeah.
the basement parking garage, and got off the elevator. And apparently when Julian found him, understandably, the kid was crying in the corner, which makes total sense. I mean, heck, I think I have 3 nephews, and the oldest one is 10.
Yeah.
I think if that happened to him, he'd be crying in the corner too. So,
I mean, yeah.
And Dresser brought up the fact that he lost his daughter one time in the Des Moines airport, and that was only for a minute. And he said that felt like an eternity. So he couldn't imagine what 20 minutes felt like for this guy. The fact that Julian found him, the fact that Iowa State was able to help this guy, a really cool positive, uplifting story of really a team banding together to help someone else who has no affiliation to anything, just help them
Right.
out and do the right thing.
Yeah. In Andy's story, if you go to their Twitter, or I'm sure it's up on their Facebook, but in the story Andy put together about the situation, he had mentioned in the story that they had said that the 1-year-old, Marley is the little boy's name, had been fascinated by the team, just these big athletes sitting in the lobby. So then he got to meet them and hang out. I mean, honestly, the parking lots under hotels are creepy. I
They are
remember
very.
that's what the hotel parking was like at the hotel, the media hotel for NCAA's in Tulsa. I hated going to my car. I hated going down there, and I'm a 28-year-old woman. Can't imagine a 1-year-old. So just a random story that Iowa State shared, and I wanted to bring up in case anyone hadn't seen it yet. But just crazy situation. Shout out to Julian Broderson. I can only imagine how he felt being truly a new dad. Olive, you'll see her in the video. She's just a little tiny thing. She's not even 1 year old, I don't
No,
think.
I mean, he even said that during interviews today. Like the fact that he was a dad definitely put a different perspective in his mind. He's like, if this had happened 2 years ago, he would have searched for the kid, no doubt. But he said there was a different level of purpose for his search right now. So, yeah, I think it's very, very fitting that he was the one to find the kid.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, of course Julian found him. Of
Yep.
course. But yeah, no. All right, Ben, give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts are Iowa State is wrestling really well. I liked what I saw from the Arizona State dual meet. Cal Baptist is what it is. It's going to be the same thing as Utah Valley. They're going to win. And then Pitt's going to be another really good test before we start getting into more serious Big 12 action. No offense to Utah Valley or Cal Baptist.
Right.
But some offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Iowa State's ranked number 4. So
moved up.
They jumped up a spot after these past 2 duels. So we're getting into the fun part. So I'm excited to be back at Hilton. Unfortunately, it sounds like we're getting a ton of snow again.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Another 6 to 10 inches.
Yeah, I'm not excited for that. A thought I had was, so I took photos at the basketball game for Iowa State. Well, not for Iowa State, but the Iowa State Houston game. I was there to take photos for Cyclone Fanatic, and basketball is one of those where it's like it's just difficult for me. It doesn't come as easy as everything else. And obviously great win for Iowa State. I was sitting there and I was like, gosh, I'm ready for Iowa State to get into these fun matchups too. Like I want Iowa State wrestling to have this type of environment, the explosiveness of these big wins. Like I'm ready for it to be going on in wrestling. That's where my brain went. If you want to know where my brain was last night. And I was just like, yeah, I'm ready to be sitting mat side, not scrunched between other people. I'm ready to be back in our element when Hilton's set up for wrestling.
Yep, I'm with you.
So that's my final thoughts. I'm just ready for the fun duels. I'm ready. Today we talked a lot about you and I in the studio. So it's time. It's time. It's already January 10th.
Yep.
So, well, as always, guys, thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much to our sponsors, Fareway, who are awesome. And like I always say, they are huge supporters of not only wrestling, but of Ben and I here at Cyclone Fanatics. So super grateful. Do your shopping there. And yeah, we'll be back next week to preview Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and probably recap whatever craziness happens this weekend. So thanks for tuning in, guys.